pleased with the makeup of the council and obviously delighted that they all committed to serving.
Now, we heard a lot in the run-up to the election about transparency and openness. I know in your Chief Minister manifesto, transparency you mentioned 5 times. Will your Council of Ministers be publishing minutes and being open and, letting the public know what they do?
Well, there are certainly a number of elements that we can do to improve the way that we go about our business. I'll be looking and reviewing as to how we communicate now with both the public but also with Tynwald, and there are certain elements that I've committed to in the manifesto, including the ministers coming to Tynwald at least annually with a full appraisal and report of their departmental's performance for that year, and also looking ahead into the future. So there's a number of elements that we can do to improve the transparency and accountability.
But will there be minutes for each meeting?
Yeah, there will, and I will discuss that with the Chief Secretary as to how that can be best communicated. There are minutes, obviously, from a council meeting. Those are consolidated and published regularly in a short form. But I'll be looking at whether those can be published more regularly as opposed to the quantum that they're currently under.
In terms of how yourself and the ministers communicate with the public, we've got used to, of course, the streamed ministerial briefings. Previously, we've had one-on-one weekly sit-downs with the media. How is your Council of Ministers going to talk to the public?
Well, the ministers, and I've already made it clear to them, they're perfectly entitled to take calls and to speak to the media as they see fit. We do need to move away from this position where the media controls the ministers in terms of the government media personnel and the marketing personnel. So I will be trying to make that a more open process for people.
In Tynwald this month, there is a motion about the programme for government. I don't want to preempt what's said in Tynwald, but this particular motion is talking about government needing to set out its stall by December. Is that feasible?
Well, again, I've already had one consultation effectively with members of the House of Keys and with Tynwald about what shape they believe the island plan should take, what the critical issues are, where the priorities are lying. I've already committed that we hope to get that to November's Tynwald in a draft format. That's still the intention. So once we've done that, then I'll be looking to complete and finalise that document and have it approved by the latest in January. But there's a number of other pressing issues that need to be dealt with, both immediately, but also other areas where ministers will be getting on within their departments to look at how they can be reshaped best to start ensuring that we're delivering to the fullest extent for the people on the island.
How difficult is that prioritising what goes in that programme for government, though? Of course, COVID is a continuing issue. The Manx gas situation is the big thing in Tynwald this month. How do you prioritise?
Well, we'll be looking at the critical issues. There will be, I'm hoping, a high-level strategic plan, which will set out 4 or 5 key headlines, and then below that, then we will add in the detail in terms of the areas that we feel that we need to tackle and also what we need to do to actually tackle them. But when you're looking at COVID, for example, that is an ongoing issue. It's an immediate issue. The 3 critical issues that I need to be dealing with Council at the moment are the gas pricing issue. We certainly need to be looking at the pressures on the health service at the moment and some of the pressures up at the hospital. And we also need to be looking at the COVID situation in the schools. And I will be meeting Council today to talk about at least one of those issues. I'm meeting senior officers to talk about the COVID scenario. And over the course of this week, we'll be looking at what we need to do to strengthen our response in those critical areas. We'll also be working to start to consolidate, as I said, some of the ideas from the initial consultation with the House of Keys and Tynwald. And we'll be starting to draft that into our island plan. And in the meantime, I still need to speak to a number of members of the House of Keys about their plans for the future from an individual perspective, because we've also got to find now the departmental members.
You mentioned the COVID in schools situation there. We heard from your ministers earlier, and Minister Edge, the new Education Minister, mentioned that Council needs to have a look again at the mitigations in schools. To your mind, are those mitigations working or do they need to change?
Well, that's why I'm going to be meeting with senior officers today, and I hope the Director of Public Health, I want us to understand what the strategic approach is now in the immediate short term, but also I want to understand what our strategic approach is for COVID and managing COVID over the winter period. It's pretty clear from what we've seen. We are going to get these outbreaks now. We do want to keep the schools moving forward, we do want to give our children as much opportunity as they can to ensure that they are at school safely, but they're getting their full content in terms of their education curriculum. So we'll be looking at what we need to do from a strategic perspective, and of course in those conversations will be the Minister for Education as well.
And just finally, there has been at least one MHK who has voiced some dissent at not being included in the council. There will, of course, I'm sure, be others who had perhaps hoped to be included. How do you get those voices back on side?
Well, there's only 8 ministerial spots and 24 members of the House of Keys. It's not a popularity contest. I have to, bring together the right team, the right collective team to serve both the people, but also to ensure that we're delivering on our objectives and our priorities. There is always obviously going to be some disappointment when you bring together a ministerial team in that way. I hope that people like Rob Collister and others will look to their futures, look to contribute in the most effective way possible. And of course, as we've always seen in the past, that there doubtless will be opportunities moving forward.